Hello all, welcome to Autoboard YouTube channel. Today we are going to cover 25 important interview questions in RPA and UiPath. So let's start our session. Just try to see all the 25 questions. Try to do some practical examples for all these questions to make the functionality and the topic clear. So let's go to the first question. What is RPA? RPA is robotic process automation, which is a software technology that makes it easy to build, deploy, and manage software robots that emulate human actions interacting with digital systems and softwares. So just try to understand the concepts of RPA, and if you are getting these questions in the interview, just give this explanation to make the topic clear. Explain the RPA lifecycle. So the first step is discovery. What is discovery? The RPA process architect evaluates the client's needs in this phase, then confirm whether the process can be automated or not. If this process can be automated, then the complexity of the process is analyzed during the discovery phase. So let's go to the next phase, that is solution design. The solution and the steps to automate the process are defined based on the requirement. Technical architect and process architect work together to create the PDD document. Then the budget, resource, count, timeline, etc. will be evaluated. Development. That is the third phase of RPA lifecycle. RPA development team created the automation scripts based on the PDD and the RPA tool selected for the automation. Developers will be creating the DSD document on the development steps. What is the fourth phase? UAT, that is user acceptance testing. In this stage, either the testing team or the development team itself will test the automation process to check how effective the bot is to automate the user task. If bot fails during testing, then again development team will start working on the bug fixes. So let's see the fifth phase of the RPA lifecycle, that is deployment and maintenance. After the successful development and testing phase, the bots are deployed into production environment. Users can use it to automate their tasks, and if any errors are identified, then it will be sent back to the developers and testing team to evaluate. Execute bots. After the successful deployment of the bots to production, then comes the execution of the bots. The bots will be monitored to check the accuracy and the success of the implementation. So suppose if you are getting a questions like what is the RPA lifecycle, you have to give the answer like discovery, solution design, development, UAT, deployment and maintenance, and execute bots are the 6 phases of RPA lifecycle. And if they ask you to give more clarity on these phases, just give this explanation. So let's go to the third question. Is RPA and AI the same? RPA is used to work along with people by automating repetitive processes. AI is viewed as a form of technology to replace human labor and automate end-to-end unattended automation. RPA uses structured inputs and logic, while AI uses unstructured inputs and develop its own logic. So almost all the RPA tools are having the AI skills now to bring RPA and AI in the same platform. Okay, so this is how you need to answer that question, because RPA and AI is not the same, but RPA tools are now providing the AI skills also to make both RPA and AI in the same platform. Okay, so let's go to the next question. What is the difference between thick and thin client? Thick client application on which we can get handful of attribute features while doing automation using RPA. For example, while we try to automate desktop and web application, we can inspect on the elements, right? That is the thick client. But if you are trying to do automation on a virtual client, we will be getting a thin client. So what is thin client? Application which doesn't get any attribute property while inspecting using RPA tools. Okay, so that is thin client. So let's go to our next question. What is Pic and PickBranch activity in UiPath? A Pic activity contains a collection of PickBranch activities. PickBranch is a pairing between a trigger activity and an action activity. During execution, all branches execute in parallel. When one trigger completes, then its corresponding action is executed and cancel all other triggers. Okay, so here you can see we have a pick activity is there, and inside that we have a pick branch. So inside pick we have added two pick branch activities. Okay, so each pick branch is having a trigger and an action. Okay, so inside the trigger here we have given element exist. Okay, suppose in this pick branch, if it is identifying this trigger, that is element exist, then this action will get execute and it will automatically cancel the other pick branch. Okay, that's how this execution will work. That is the use of a pick branch activity. So let's move on. What is session variables in UiPath? Variables that are unique to a single instance of a process. If many instances of the corresponding process run at the same time, all of the session variables will be the same, but the value will be different. So for multiple sessions, it will be using the same variable, but the value of that particular variable will get changed for each session. Okay. So let's go to the next question. What is the difference between find elements and element exists in UiPath? So what is find element? Waits for the specified UI element to appear on the screen. So it's to be in the foreground and return it as a UI element variable. Okay, and it returns UI element type variable. Okay, so that is important. And what about element exist? Enable you to verify if a element exists even if it is not visible. Okay, and returns a boolean type of variable. So element exist will be returning a boolean type variable, and find element will be returning a UI element type of variable. So this is an important question in the interviews. Okay, so let's move on. What is the difference between an array and list? So what is array? The array variable is a type of variable which enable you to store multiple values of the same type. So suppose if you are trying to create a string array, it can store only the string values, or if you are going to create a integer array, it can store only integer values. Okay, so the combination of different data types is not allowed in the arrays. What about list? The list variable is type of variable which enable you to store multiple values of different types. So if you're creating a list variable, you can include even string, integer, or different kinds of data types you can include inside a list variable. Okay, so let's go to next question. What should be the type argument of the for loop variable if you want to print all of the key value pair in the dictionary? Okay, so suppose if you are getting a question like, if you have a dictionary, okay, and you want to print all the key value pairs in the dictionary in a message box, what you have to do? You will have to use a for each activity or a for loop activity for printing all the values in the dictionary, right? So what should be the type argument of the variable in the for loop? Okay, so that is a question. So it should be an object, then only it will help to print the key value pairs. Okay, so let's go on. What is UI Explorer in UiPath? So UI Explorer is an advanced tool that enables you to create a custom selector for a specific UI element. It is available as a standalone tool you can download from the resource center in your automation cloud instance or from Studio. Okay, so this UI Explorer is a tool which help you to inspect on different application to find out the selectors for your automation. What is dynamic selectors in UiPath? A dynamic selector uses a variable or an argument as a property for the attribute of your target tag. This allows the selector to easily identify a target element based on the value of the variable or argument, and not an exact string which might change depending on interactions inside your automation project. As such, the variable or argument can be changed to interact with a different element without changing the selector itself. For example, suppose if you are getting a web page where you have different buttons to download the files. Okay, so each of these file buttons are having the selectors, and only the ID X is changing. okay, like 1, 2, 3. So using the one click activity itself, you can loop through all these buttons by changing the id x value by dynamically passing the variable to the selector. Okay, so this is one example. What is wildcard and which are the wildcards available in UiPath? Wildcards are symbols that enable you to replace 0 or multiple characters in a string. So these can be quite useful when dealing with dynamically changing attributes in a selector. So you have to tell them which are the wildcards that is available in the UiPath. So two wildcards are available. One is asterisk, that is star, and question mark. Okay, so asterisk is nothing but it replaces 0 or more characters, and question mark replaces a single character. Okay, so let's go to next question. Is that possible to add charts to Excel file in UiPath? So what's your answer? So the answer is yes, it is possible using the insert chart activity. Okay, so the output variable type of insert chart activity is iChart reference, REF. Okay, so you can go to your studio and just search for insert chart. There you can give the different type of charts available, but you have to give the data range for creating a chart in your Excel. Okay, so you have to give to which sheet that you want to insert that particular chart, and if you want to save it, you can save that chart to a particular variable. So that variable should be having the data type iChart REF reference. Okay, so let's go to our next question. What is computer vision in UiPath? Okay, so this is one of the advanced technology in UiPath. So you can expect a question from computer vision. So you can answer like, it is created mainly for automation in virtual desktop environment such as Citrix machine. These activities bypass the issue of inexistent or unreliable selector as they send images of the window you are automating to the neural network, where it is analyzed and all UI elements are identified and labeled accordingly to what they are. Smart anchors are used to pinpoint the exact location of the UI element you are interacting with, ensuring the action you intend to perform is successful. Okay, so this is nothing but like suppose if you are going to automate a virtual desktop, you can directly inspect on the elements inside a virtual desktop, right? Because you will be getting only the image of that particular machine in your system, right? So you can directly inspect on those virtual desktop. So UiPath is providing a new functionality, that is computer vision, that is totally based on an advanced neural network and smart anchor based technology. Okay, so it will help to inspect on each and every element of the virtual desktop if you are going to use the computer vision functionality. Okay, so let's go to our next question. What is global exception handler in UiPath? So the global exception handler is a type of workflow designed to determine the project's behavior when encountering an execution error. Only one global exception handler can be set per automation project. Okay, so there are two arguments for this exception handler. So what are they? That is error info and result. Okay, so error info argument with the in direction, it stores information about the error that was thrown and the workflow that failed. Okay, what is result argument with the out direction? It is used for determining the next behavior of the process when it encounters an error. Okay, so this is a main question. You have to go to the studio and try to create a global exception handler. So if you go to workflow and create a new global exception handler for that project, it will create one global exception handler. Okay, so it will be having two variables, error info and result. So it will help to capture all the errors that is happening in the project. Okay, so let's move on. What is data scraping in UiPath? So data scraping enables you to extract structured data from your browser application or document to a database, .csv file or even Excel spreadsheet. Okay, structured data is a specific kind of information that is highly organized and is presented in a predictable pattern. So suppose in a website, if you have a table, okay, so if you want to extract that, then you can go to data scraping button in the studio, and if you inspect on that particular table, it will automatically identify that table as a table element, and it will capture all the values inside that particular table as a data table. Okay, so that is how data scraping will work, but it should be a structured data. Okay. What is attended and unattended robots in UiPath? So robot is one of the main component in UiPath. So you can expect a question related to robots. So this is a short question, that is what is attended and unattended robot in UiPath. So what is attended? Attended robot operates on the same workstation as human and assists them to get their regular tasks done in an automated way. These robots are generally triggered by user events or actions, collaborates with employees and teams to assist with the front office activity. We can start this type of activity directly from the robot tray. Attended robots should be run only when they are under human supervision. So it means we cannot schedule any task in attended robot. Whenever if we trigger something, then we can use the attended robots to action on the remaining workflow. Okay, so that's how we need to create the automations using attended bots. What is unattended? Unattended robots are autonomous robots that do not require human supervision during the execution. They run unattended in virtual environments and can automate multiple tasks simultaneously. Back office processes are automated at a large scale. Unattended RPA bots follow a set of instructions or are triggered by logic in the process flow. They are also used for monitoring and scheduling tasks, remote execution, and offering support for process queues. Right? Like suppose if you want to process something at 9 o'clock, we need to schedule this process, right? For that, for execution of those kind of triggers, what we have to do, we have to go for unattended robots. Okay, so that is the main difference between unattended and attended robots. So let's move on. What is the difference between variables and arguments in UiPath? So what is variable? It is used to pass the data between the activities of same project. Okay, so what is argument? Argument, it is used to pass the data between the workflows or projects. Okay, so this is a main difference between variable and argument. So variable is used to pass the data between activity of same project, but argument, it is used to pass the data between workflow or project. So if you have different workflows in your machine or in your project, you can pass the value from one workflow to another using the argument. Okay, so let's go to next question. What is queue in UiPath? So a queue is a list of items that you want to be processed by robots. The queues page enables you to create queues, view information about queue item, such as average execution time and the total number of successful transition, display charts with the transaction status progress over time, right? So this is nothing but, like suppose if you have a set of data and you want to process it using some virtual queue method, you can create a queue in orchestrator and you can load the data to the particular queue. Okay, so suppose if you want to process those items using multiple boards which is configured in different machine, you can call up these queues for processing those transition which is there in the queues. Okay, so that is the concept of queues in UiPath. What's the difference between get queue items and get transaction item in UiPath? So what is get queue item? It retrieves a list of transitions from an indicated queue according to multiple filters such as creation date, priority, state, and reference. Okay, so this is a main point, that is it retrieves a list of transition from an indicated queue. Okay, so what is a get transition item? So it gets an item from the queue so that you can process and set its status to in progress. So whenever if you are getting a transition from queue using get transition item, it will you can process the transition and set its status to in progress. Okay. What is RE framework in UiPath? So RE framework is a project template based on state machine that is used to design automation workflows in a compatible approach for large scale deployments. It is created to fit all of the best practices regarding logging, exception handling, application initialization, and others, being ready to tackle a complex business scenario. Okay, so it is built up of 4 states and 7 transitions. So it is built up of 4 states, that is init process, get transition, then process, then end process. Okay, so these are the 4 states. So you can go to the templates and you can go to RE framework template for checking more on RE framework. So maybe we can have another detailed session for RE framework as well. Okay, so let's go to our next topic. Okay, so here RE framework stands for Robotic Enterprise Framework. Okay, so that is the full form of RE framework. So let's go to next question. How to get the credentials from orchestrator in UiPath? So you can save the credentials in orchestrator and you can call that credentials in your workflows, right, from the orchestrator. So which activity will help you to get the credentials which is stored in the orchestrator? For that you can use get credential activity. Okay, so get credential activity gets a specified credential by using a providing asset name and returns the username and secure password. Okay, so you have to pass the asset name of the credential that you stored in the orchestrator. By passing that asset name, you can get the username and password to your workflow. Okay, so let's go to next question. What is the difference between set test and type into in UiPath? So type into activity, so it sends keystroke to a UI element. Okay, special keys are supported and can be selected from the drop down list. So it just do the send keystroke to a UI element. Okay, that is the main point. And what is set test? Enable you to write a string to the test attribute of a specified UI element. This activity uses the simulate type property by default and cannot be changed, which means disabled elements are altered by default. So set test works by simulate type and a type into works by sending keystrokes to the UI element. That is the main difference between type into and set test. So set test works with a simulate type. Okay. What is multi-tenancy in UiPath? So multi-tenancy means enable you to isolate data with only one instance of orchestrator. So this feature facilitates automating different departments from your company and ensures the desired authorization of orchestrated data per department, even though all the data is stored in the same database. So suppose if you're part of a company and you have different departments in that company like HR, finance, transport, like that. Okay, so we are going to do a different automation and we have to give the access to different users who is part of the different department, right? So what we can do, we can create different departments in the orchestrator or the tenants, and we can give the access to the particular tenant to the particular user. It will be using the same database for storing all the data, but due to this tenant there won't be any data breach, like a person from HR department cannot see the data from the finance. Okay, so that is one benefit with the multi-tenancy. What is classic and modern folder in UiPath? So what is classic folder? So robots which are managed manually can only be part of one classic folder. As such, they can only have access to process font in one folder at a time. If you want to give access to a process font in a different folder, you are required to delete the robot from the first folder and provision it in the new one. Okay, so classic folder is the old type of folder which was available in the orchestrator, and modern folder, that is the latest approach in orchestrator, and that is the suggestible one by UiPath also. Okay, so what is the benefit of a modern folder? So modern folders are unique folder to which users are assigned with automatic provisioning of robots. The user and the automatically provisioned robot are linked with the robot available for process execution in any folder where the user has access. Okay, so modern folders are available for the orchestrator version 19 plus. Okay, when 19 plus you can get the modern folders. So that is the difference between classic folder and modern folder. So in classic folder, suppose if you want to process a transaction from different folder, you have to delete the robot from the first folder and you need to provision it again in the new one. But those issues can be resolved in the modern folder. So in which all folders that the user is having access, on all those folders we can process the process using the robots, okay, which are linked to the user. So hope all those points are clear and it's useful for you. So just go through all these topics and do some practicals along with this. So we can see soon with a new video. We'll continue these interview questions again, and we can cover more questions which will helpful for you to crack UiPath or RPA interviews. So thanks for watching the video.